Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 412. Andrew here. Hope you're all doing well. I've got an audience of one tonight. Maybe that will grow to two, or dare I hope three. Um, so a couple topics I'd like to hit tonight. First, I was there's a new game coming out. I think next year. It's called Wuchi, the Wayfarer. And Wuchi, Wuchi, and that made me think that, well, that's interesting. Granted that the game was there was no gameplay; it was all pre-rendered cinematics. But from the pre-rendered trailer and the video description, it appears to be a probably Souls-like historical fantasy RPG. Those seem to be in vogue, but it's not just the genre and gameplay style and that kind of aesthetic that seem to be in vogue, but also the name. Because I was like, Wuchi? That's interesting because in the last couple of years we've had Wulong, Wukong, Wuchang, and now Wuchi. I'm like, and that's fine. There's a lot of video game characters or movie characters named John. So yeah, it's fine. John Wick, John Rambo, John Kramer, I think is the Jigsaw, right? Lots of Johns. So if there's a bunch of people named Wu something, it's fine. Well, actually, it's Wolong in the Fallen Dynasty. It's Wolong, and Wukong is actually Black Myth Wukong, whereas the other ones are the Wu or Woe name, a single a W syllable followed by another syllable, colon, and then stuff. Black Myth kind of breaks that pattern. So we've got Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Black Myth Wukong, Wuchang Fallen Feathers, and now Wuchi the Wayfarer. And hey, do you like Overwatch? You know who the new character is? Wu Yang. I mean, that's not a historical fantasy RPG, but I thought that was kind of funny. And this isn't a problem. I'm not being critical, but it really feels like there's CEOs out there who are like, all these games are popular. Make one of those. What should we call it? Make sure that whatever you call it, it's a two-syllable word. The first syllable starts with a W, and then there's a colon and some subtitles. Or some, a subtitle, yeah. It's like, it feels kind of cynical and manufactured like that. I'm not criticizing the games. I'm sure they're all fine. I'm just seeing this pattern, and I think it's funny. Because all these four, Wolong, Wukong, Wuchang, and Wuchi, are all historical fantasy RPGs. So, I mean, it's not like one is a card game and one is like a Pokemon collectible thing. No, they're all very similar and similar named. So, I just thought that was funny. Next game in the series, Woo Woo, yeah. Also this week on the video game front, a year and change ago, we saw a trailer for a new Jurassic Park game. Jurassic Park, is it called Jurassic Park? I think it's called Jurassic Park. I was trying to remember as Parker World, and I have Park written down, but who the hell knows? I think it's called Jurassic Park Survival. Now, a year and change ago, when we first saw the trailer, we didn't get any gameplay, but it's Jurassic Park, it's survival, it's Jurassic Park Survival. It doesn't come out for another year or so, so we were like, would have been nice if we saw some gameplay, but you're wandering around Jurassic Park trying not to get eaten by dinosaurs. I'm pretty sure that's what the premise is. But whoever the hell's making the game put out a behind-the-scenes video earlier this week. And you know what? No gameplay. Well, that's not entirely true. There were a couple of sequences of the camera in first-person view. I would assume it's a first-person game, slowly walking down a completely empty environment with no HUD. Technically, maybe you could say, well, I mean, that's probably an engine, so that's an environment from the game that's probably gameplay, but And there was what appeared to be more of like a cutscene when you get your leg chomped on by a T-Rex. I'm not saying the game is going to be bad or anything, but I mean, kind of weird to have a behind the scenes when we've had no scenes to look behind yet, right? You think they'd want to show off the game, what the game is, how it plays. But no, they were just talking about how thrilled they were to be working with the Jurassic Park IP and the JP IP, and how big of fans they are, and they're trying to make this look exactly like the original film. And look at our rotating model of the T-Rex. His muscles are all jiggly. Isn't that cool? And here's a character render of our new hero, Maya Johnson, or whatever her name is. And, you know, she got left behind, and now she's going to have to try and get off the island without getting eaten by dinosaurs. It was about 6 minutes of... I imagine there are some people on Earth who buy a DVD or Blu-ray or whatever of a film that they've never seen, and they immediately watch the movie with the audio commentary on. Or they immediately watch the behind-the-scenes featurette before watching the movie. If that's how you do, you do you. That is not how I do. In fact, that seems very weird to me. So it just struck me as very odd that we have this Jurassic Park Survival behind-the-scenes video before we've had any damn gameplay. And it's not like they were even describing how the game plays. They were just, it's so cool, we've got the license, we're big fans, we're going to make it look exactly... I'm like, great, what's the game, though? I mean, I can speculate. It's called JP Survival, right? But why not show the game? Chicago, I was wondering if they were all related. I'd heard that... Oh, I was talking about the Woo series? Yeah. Woo, the trek to Jurassic Park. Yeah. You do you, woohoo, yeah. Well, I hope the Jurassic Park Survival game is great, and I look forward to actually seeing, you know, some game. Along those lines, Pragmata, that Capcom game that Capcom's been showing off for many years now. It's the one with, it's the spacey one that had the hologram cat, but the hologram cat hasn't been in any of the recent footage, which upsets me. And it has the little robot girl in the blue jacket. So there was a Pragmata first impressions. I was like, oh shit, people got to play the game, neat. Let's look at this. Well, wait a minute. This is a video produced by Capcom. Capcom? You can't first impressions your own game? That's uncouth. You don't do that. That's a... That would be like me writing a book. Hey, I published my first novel. Let me give you my impressions of it. I mean, okay. Chaos, hello. So Capcom uploaded a video of first impressions of their own game. What it was a Capcom-produced video that was a collage of first impressions of other people who played it at an event that Capcom controlled the experience of. I'm like, really, Capcom? Come on. Yeah, a Capcom produced and edit. It's like, so Capcom controlled the environment, invited people, controlled the environment in which they played the game, and then interviewed them and edited those interviews into a collage of clips of them singing the praises of this game and called it First Impressions. I'm like, you could be better than this, Capcom. Come on. Maybe they had the maintenance crew try out the game for the first time. I mean, maybe it's like, why invite actual gamers to play the game or send out codes or something? We just say, hey, Harvey, stop scrubbing the toilet. Come here, play this, and let everyone know what they think. You know, it's like, oh, great. Harvey, wash your hands before touching the controller. That's not my toothbrush you're using to scrub the toilet, are you, Harvey? Harvey's like, the shit you put me through, you're goddamn right. This is your toothbrush. Don't even know why you have a toothbrush here in the office anyway. It's so weird. The Adventures of Harvey, Capcom janitor. So how's the game look? I mean, it looks exactly like what they showed off 2 months ago. Like they had no new B-roll. I get the sense that the folks that got to play it played the same section that they showed off a couple of months ago, and they were just using B-roll from that trailer. Yeah, it looks like it might be neat. They've got a fun little battle system where you have to play a simple on-screen puzzle to render the attacking robots vulnerable to your attacks. That could be interesting. And according to the way Capcom edited the impressions, they were all really positive. Imagine that. Also along the video games line. Yeah, there you go. I'm playing Doom, the Dark Ages, and I'm enjoying it. Doom: The Dark Ages features a quality of life edition that I don't recall any other game doing in this specific way, and I'm glad Doom does. In other Doom games, and games in general, particularly games that have a component of exploration and collection, so any game where there are goodies, collectibles to pick up off the ground and stuff into your pocket just to make the numbers go up, right? Often you will run into an issue of you're exploring the environment, you're picking up the jiggies and the gold stars and the other crap that's littering the environment, and you walk through a door and it ends the level before you manage to get everything. And you're like, well, son of a bitch, I didn't realize that was the exit to the level. It wasn't marked. If I knew that was the exit of the level or in a point of no return transition to a second part of the level, I wouldn't have crossed that threshold before I'd finished exploring. And what's even more frustrating is if you are like in a hallway with a fork in the path, or you have two doors, and you're like, I want to make sure that which door is not the story path, because I want to make sure I fully explore this area before continuing on in the game. This one. Nope! Moving on with the story. No! I have to reload the entire chapter just so I can see what's behind that goddamn door! No! That happens so much. But in Doom: The Dark Ages, there is a icon, a waypoint, that points you to your next objective. And just so you don't get lost, it's like, your objective is over here, do whatever the hell you want. When you're ready to get going, go over there. That icon changes to a bespoke icon that means point of no return. And the game is clear about this. It's like, this is point of no return, so don't go through this door. Do not cross this threshold. Do not jump in this pit until you're ready to leave. If you're not ready to leave, make sure you collect all the stuff you want to collect before hitting the clearly marked point of no return. That is wonderful. Thank you, id Software. That's lovely. I love it. It's great. One small problem, though. The waypoint is the normal icon. It only switches to the point of no return when you are 30 meters or less away from it. If you are 31 meters or more away from the point of no return, it doesn't use the point of no return icon. It uses the regular waypoint objective marker. So, if you're not paying close attention, number one, and number two, Doom Guy moves like a bat out of hell. That dude has a land speed of like 80 miles an hour. So if you're just running along, heading towards the new objective, you can easily just run right through the door, and you'll see it switch, and you'll go like, oh shit, no, and apply the brakes and go through the door, and it's too late. You're gonna have to restart the level now. Ha ha ha. Yes, that's happened to me once. Now I'm much more careful about approaching these waypoint markers. Just as I'm like, okay, this one's good. It's like, why, guys? Why? Why don't you just use the point of no return marker the entire time, or at least push it back to, I don't know, 200 meters? I don't see any point in changing it. Just mark it as point of no return. If it's not a point of no return, don't use the marker. If it is, use the marker. Done. I don't think that's going to be confusing, but I appreciate what they're doing. I really appreciate what they're doing. I don't agree entirely with the way they executed it, though. Still, more games need to do stuff like that. The Trails games actually do something similar, but it's mostly in dialogue. The game will, in text, tell you, are you sure you want to go to sleep? This will advance the story. You could just not go to sleep and continue talking to people or open treasure chests and stuff. You know, the game's pretty clear about you're about to kick the story forward. That's fine too. You know, markers, just a pop-up box, anything. That's great, because I tend to be a 100% completionist, and I'm a 100% completionist, but I don't want to replay the game. I want to get everything in the first go. I don't like the, oh no, you could play through it a second time to get more stuff. I'm like, no. Play through the entire thing again to get the true ending. No. Not gonna do that. Oh man, I am hydrating like a thirsty boy. Chicago says, I forgot what game I was playing that had something similar. When you found an exit, I get a message. If you take this exit, means you can't come back. You sure you want to exit? Yeah, I mean, that's maybe immersion breaking, but it's really appreciated. All right, so moving off of video games and on to television. I watched the first episode, he says as he holds up two distinct fingers, of Alien Earth. I have seen all of the Alien films, including the Predator crossovers, and I've never been a huge fan of the Alien movies. Honestly, I like Aliens is a fun action movie. That's about it. And they're monster movies. They're you know, it's got a fun gooey monster that eats people. They're fine. I don't dislike the Alien movies, but I never really liked them. Even the first one, I don't really, I never even really liked the first Alien movie. But yeah, you know, they're alien monster movies. So I checked out the first episode of Alien Earth with interest, even though I'm not, you know, the biggest fan of the Alien franchise. Boy, my notes are misspelled. There we go. First episode is fine, which I guess is exactly the reaction I could expect to have for an Alien show. Oh, what did you think of the first episode? It's fine. It's got some aliens in it. The aliens are neat. It's fine. You know, oh, you didn't like it? No, I didn't dislike it. I thought it was fine. Chaos says, saw Nobody 2 today. That was a lot of fun. Good violent romp. I didn't see the first one, so I've heard really good things about the first one and now the sequel, so I'll try to remember to check them out at some point. Something else was, I think I finally checked out something that had been popular and I just never saw, and I don't remember. So Alien Earth. Really what I want to talk about. Oh, one praiseworthy thing I will have is one of the unique twists they're putting in this, one of the lore expanding things they're adding to Alien here is the idea that human consciousness can be transferred to a synthetic body. We've already seen that they have synths, you know, Rook and Bishop and so on and so forth. But they're experimenting with moving human consciousness, transferring human consciousness over to a synthetic shell. So we have a blend of human and synth. Okay, that's interesting. There apparently is an issue with moving adult consciousness, so they're working on terminally ill children. Of course, it's the company. It's not Wayland Yutani specifically, although they have a presence. It's a different company. I think it's called Prodigy or something like that. And it's very heavy-handed Peter Pan theme stuff. I mean, they literally show Peter Pan the cartoon. It's called Neverland. The guy who runs the company is the youngest trillionaire ever. A boy who won't grow up. He's got a bunch of kids that he's putting in bodies that will never grow up either. He literally calls them the Lost Boys. It's like, that hand, so heavy. I grabbed subtlety by the lapel. I looked it in the eye and I said, "Fuck you." And then I spit in its face. I'm teasing. I don't. Yes, it's heavy-handed. Yes, it's on the nose. I don't care that much. I think it's fun to poke fun at, but I don't really have a problem with it. Anyway, so we've got what I wanted to point out was the adult actors who are playing the synths, who are synthetic shells with the consciousness of children, so far are doing a really nice job of playing at being children in adult bodies. They really have the writing and the performances are working really well. The way they sit and the way they talk and joke around and do stuff really comes off as young children. I think they're doing that very well. How will this play for the rest of the... Are they doing this just as... It's like, you know what? I love it when monsters eat children in movies, but we can't really do that. It makes people uncomfortable. What if we put the children in adult bodies? Then we could kill them with monsters and people would be okay with it. That kind of feels like no, you don't understand. This fictional animated character with the body, voice, and mannerisms of a 12-year-old girl is actually a 5,000-year-old dragon, so it's okay. It's like, what are you doing? So what I really wanted to talk about with Alien Earth was the editing, which feels custom designed to hurt me. It's not bad editing. It's very deliberate and considered and a conscious choice that I don't like. There is so much cross-scene cutting. Like, you'll have a scene with people talking and then they'll mention something else and it will cut to just the something else who aren't doing anything interesting. It's just, this is what they're talking about. This guy over here sitting in a chair staring at a wall. It's like, okay. And then it cuts back to the scene already in progress. A lot of times instead of finishing a scene and then moving on to somewhere else, they'll just cross-cut between different scenes, but not in a way that I feel services the narrative. It almost feels like either someone told him the scene's too long, it's boring, spice it up, or it to me it just feels like, oh, art. I'm getting a very, very artsy-fartsy feel here. That's just someone's trying to be over-artistic and it's just not working for me. So there's lots of cross-scene cutting, but also on top of that, so many crossfades. You know the scene transition, the Star Wars wipe. You know that vertical or horizontal or diagonal wipe that the Star Wars movies employ fairly frequently. Not frequently enough, I think, to really call attention to themselves, but common enough in the films to be called the Star Wars wipe. Oh my god, this thing has so many crossfades. It's obnoxious. Oh, and not just crossfades, but double exposures. Basically, we're exposing two scenes at the same time in an artistic attempt to juxtapose two different characters or two different scenes or two different things going on at the same time. But and there's a place for that, I think. But it's like Dutch angling your entire goddamn film, Battlefield Earth, right? You use it too much and it loses all of its value. You can't do that many cross dissolves and double exposures and interscene cutting throughout the entire hour-long first episode for the specific reason that you will drive this one specific dude nuts. I don't know if I can watch episode 2 because it annoyed me so much. I hated the editing. Again, not bad editing. It's not like they made a mistake. I just don't like what they're doing. And I wish they would stop. Because it hurts my delicate artistic sensibilities. But I also want to see aliens nom on people's faces. There's a new alien. There's a couple new aliens, but one of them we get to see, which is kind of like an alien tick that that just latches onto you and sucks out, I don't know, like 4 pints of blood. And it just becomes this big... It's a big tick, and then it just kind of wanders off. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but I'm like, well, that's... Ticks are frightening and gross enough as it is, and they only get like that big, and they, it's only a relatively few drops of your blood that they can take out. But these things have a sack about this big. It's like 4, maybe 6 pints. I don't know. They're taking a lot. They're taking more than their fair share, enough to knock your ass unconscious, if not to outright kill you. It's pretty gnarly and gross, and I do like it. So anyway, Alien Earth. There's things I like. The editing is not one of them. Chicago says facehugger implanted a tick, and that's what emerged. No, it's just a completely different alien. The premise seems to be that a research vessel went out into the cosmos and collected a bunch of alien life forms, including a facehugger, and some googly-eyed spider thing, and space ticks, and a couple other things that we haven't really gotten a look at yet. So we're going to have more than just the xenomorphs running around. So it should be fun. If I can get past the editing, I don't know if I can be adult about this. I may just be a whiny, petulant little child about the editing. I don't know. Alright, that's enough TV. Let's move on to movies. Before I move on to movies that I've watched, including a short that I would like to talk about, I would like to say that I've always found it funny that the things dog people like about dogs are the exact same reasons I prefer cats. I find the same thing with movie theater attendance. There are a lot of people who will happily extol the virtues of the theater. Going to the theater is the only way, well, the best way to enjoy a feature film. I don't agree. And I saw over on Screen Crush yet another article extolling the virtues of the movie theater experience. And I found that it was a list of all the reasons I don't want to go to the theater. The author says, in part, who is the author here? There's no author? Well, oh, no, Matt Singer. Okay. Good old Matt, whoever that is. Matt says, in part, the best home theater in the world still can't compete with the sheer, overwhelming scale of the best multiplex. And that's true. I agree with that. That would be one of the reasons, and used to be one of the reasons, I would like going to the theater. I'll say right up front that there are advantages to the theater-going experience. Films in theaters are typically in theaters first. So, if there's a movie you really want to see, going to the theater allows you to see it right bloody now. that's not as big a advantage as it used to be. When I was young, movies once they were out of the theater would not hit home video for at least 6 months. Nowadays, sometimes it's a simultaneous VOD, or it's like maybe a couple weeks later it'll hit VOD. And even if you don't want to go to the expense of video on demand, it will probably hit one of the streaming services in 3, maybe 4 months. But before that, it will hit the various rental services like Vudu, Fandango, Amazon Prime, and you could rent the movie for a fraction of the theater ticket price, like, $4 or $5. So again, there is an advantage here, but it's not near the advantages. The advantage doesn't quite have the value that it did when I was a kid. And it's the same thing with him stating that the best home theater can't compete with the sheer overwhelming scale of the best multiplex. Still true, not as true when I was a kid. See, when I was a kid, the average household's television would have been a 4x3 square box, probably not much bigger than 19 inches. Also, the sound was mononaural. There was no few of the TVs were stereo. There were sound systems back then. There were larger TVs back then. But your average middle lower income household would probably have round about 19-inch 4x3 mononaural televisions. Yes, they were in color at that point, but still. So going to the theater was an enormous difference. Not only did you have the widescreen experience, not only was the screen humongous, significantly larger, but you had much better sound, stereo sound, beautiful, big, broad soundscape. You had this gigantic screen, and it was framed correctly so that you could actually see the entire widescreen presentation. Nowadays, while the movie-going experience is still a grander presentation than what you can experience at home, a good number of us have pretty large, widescreen, high-definition televisions with at least stereo sound, if not home theater systems. So, again, it's a better experience, but it's not as much of a step up as it used to be. Let's see, Cass, it's not going to lie, I prefer going to the theater. I go in the early afternoon, which tends to lead to fewer people. When I went to the theater, I would always hit, like, the weekend matinees. Less people, yes, but also cheaper. So, although I will say, there's a short list of inventions that came out over the course of my lifetime. Stadium theater seating, that's one of my favorites. It's right up there with the upside-down butter and ketchup bottle. It's a great invention. Revolutionized the theater-going experience. You could actually see over the person in front of you. It's great. Also, the chairs were more comfy, because the theaters I was used to had existed for decades, and there was no padding left. It was just fabric stretched over a metal frame. Chicago says, I enjoy the big screen of the theater and the sound. I hate the people who ruin the experience. For me, that's the thing. And we'll get into that here in a second. Chaos says, downside, the nearest theater is about 40 minutes away. I go to the drive-in now. And it's about 25 minutes, maybe half an hour. It kind of depends. It's about 17 miles one way. It doesn't sound like it's as far as yours, but it's a bit of a drive. Chicago says, we were so poor, we only had a 13-inch black and white used TV. Did it have the antenna? Did you have to move the physical antenna to pull in some stations? Because my grandmother had a 13-inch box with a physical antenna. So yeah, I've definitely seen those. He also says there are a lot of good films in theaters right now, and that leads to something I was saying is, movies come out, and when they come out in theater, that's the first place you can see them. So if you really want to see them, it's either wait for a while or see it in theater. but as I mentioned, it's not as long a wait anymore. He goes on to talk about, he says, if you asked me to name the best theatrical experience I've had in 2025, The Naked Gun would be my easy number one. That's because for 85 straight minutes, the audience of about 50 people never stopped laughing. At times, the crowd was so loud, they drowned out the jokes. I'm going to have to see The Naked Gun again just to hear all the stuff I missed. This is where Matt? Is it Matt or is it Mike? This is where Matt and I differ. Because to him, that's a positive. To me, that is a severe negative. Other people. I don't begrudge anyone else laughing at a joke. That's what you're supposed to do. I will excuse noises like startled yelps during jump scares or laughter during jokes. You know, that's about it. Otherwise, shut the hell up. Watch quietly. You know, like me. But he's, oh man, I went to the movie, so everyone was laughing. You couldn't hear what was going on. I'm literally going to have to go pay to see the movie again because I missed a good chunk of it because I couldn't hear it over the other people. To me, that's a pretty compelling negative. He goes on to talk about Weapons, a new movie that I'd be interested in seeing. He's talking about a creepy basement movement. He says, at that exact moment, a voice whispered from the front row in the theater that said, "What the fuck?" Seconds later, the character on screen who stumbled upon this terrible image cried out, "What the fuck?" It was an incredible thing to witness, and it wasn't the only moment improved by the theatrical setting. Weapons' quiet moments got so pin drop silent, you could hear the people around you breathing. That amplifies the sustained tension. It's like, I can hear my neighbor. My bedroom shares a wall with the bedroom of the apartment next door. I can hear them snoring. I'm glad they're either very, very quiet or not physically affectionate because I'm sure I'd hear other things too. The only thing I've ever heard is snoring. I'm glad they don't watch TV in that room. So you know what does that enhance my nocturnal experiences? No. I turn on the fan, whether it's hot or not, to drown out the noise because I don't want to hear other people breathing. For me, that does not enhance the experience, that degrades it. Even the occasional distant cries of infants from the hallways, where all morning movies are baby day screenings, where caregivers are invited to bring their sleeping newborns, enhanced the eerie atmosphere of this tale of disappearing kids. It was almost like seeing Weapons in 4DX. I love the fact that I can hear babies crying outside. That really enhanced my enjoyment of the creepy movie. Really. I'm very glad for you. That's not how I would feel about it. That would really distract and annoy the hell out of me. He talks about another movie he saw at a different theater where he, quote, spent the whole film straining to look forward and down just to get a clear view of the screen. So he was in a larger theater, but he was sat in a balcony seat on a far side. So he was like trying to look down at the screen. And I've read this 3-paragraph passage a few times, and I still can't even figure out how he's justifying that as some kind of enhancement. That sounds physically painful. I'm not sure what. Anyway, he says, and closes out, it's cliche to complain about poorly behaved viewers at the theater. I mean, I suppose it's cliche, but it's also cliche for a reason, because it's a perfectly valid thing to complain about. But anyway, he says they look at their phones, Yeah, very distracting. They talk over dialogue, crinkle plastic food wrappers, and eat stinky food they've smuggled into the auditorium. You ever sit near someone slurping soup in a movie theater? I have! Exclamation point. He goes on, and I agree. Honestly, it was such an impressive feat, I wasn't mad. Where did they hide all that soup on their way in? That's a good question. Tupperware? um, but yeah, that's not charming to me. That's annoying. That ruins my experience that I, you know, took time out of my day for and paid a premium fee for. Well, I mean, I probably didn't. It's probably like a Sunday matinee. Uh, Still probably costs like $8 at least, but Naked Gun was funny. I'd like to see the Naked Gun. Not enough to actually go to a theater where there's, you know, other people. Um, yeah, the rabbit ears were loose. Talking about the TV. Yeah. Kat says, had an AMC theater about 28 minutes away, but it closed last year. A new one is going to take its place, but hasn't opened yet. Oh, okay. Yeah, out where my mom lives, you want to go to the theater, you're going into Hopkinsville, which is, yeah, probably 40, maybe 50 minutes away, depending. Yeah, it's almost nearly an hour all the way into the theater in Hopkinsville from where she lives in Cadiz. Um, so, yeah, I don't like going to the theater. Uh, One, oftentimes you can't guarantee that the presentation will. I've had issues where movies are like slightly out of focus or misframed, and if I have to get out of the film and go tell people like the movie's out of focus, misframed, I'm like, I'm I'm missing part of the movie now, so I'm gonna need my ticket refunded. I'm gonna have to. I've just wasted a good chunk of my day because I'm gonna have to come back later. That's how I do. Uh, people just can't be trusted to. You get a large enough group of people, someone is going to be distracting. They're going to be looking at their phones, which would be fine if they didn't have really bright lights on them. I don't know why you would go to the theater to play on your phone though. You can play on your phone anywhere. Why would you go to the theater and pay money to? Are you doing it just to annoy people? I don't know. Yeah, people talk and kick and move around, and some people go to the theater when they're sick. And this was, even pre-COVID. I've had several experiences throughout my life where someone just blew chunks all over the place. They're in there with this deep bronchial cough, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? And I've had people barf at least twice in a theater, and it's like, okay, well that's a smell I'm not going to sit through a movie. It's like, don't go to the theater when you're sick. What is wrong with you? So yeah, I do not enjoy. But a lot of people, like, one of the main thrusts of this article is I love the community aspect of the theater. I love sitting with a crowd and experiencing it with other people. The shared joy of the filmic experience just tickles my fancy. Well, different strokes, different folks. My fancy remains untickled. I would prefer no one else be there. If they're comfy seats and the film's in focus, I like the big screen and the big sound. I just don't like other people. If everyone else was not there, that would be my preferred experience. I don't want to. I guess maybe I just don't like sharing. I don't want to share the experience with anyone. I want to keep it all to myself. No, I love talking about movies. I'm doing it right now. I have a podcast with my sister where we just watch the movie separately. Granted, we live in different states, but I've never once thought, you know what, this movie would be better if my sister was here watching it with me. No. I've had plenty of movies where it's like, I want my sister to watch this so we can talk about it. I have never sat there and thought, wow, you know what would make this movie better? If someone else was sitting here quietly watching it with me. That makes no sense to me. That's not how I work. That doesn't mean I'm correct, or that everyone else who feels a different way is incorrect. Not at all. Just not how it's not how I work. So that brings us to some of the movies I've watched. And I've watched 7 movies so far this month, and they've all been horror movies. I didn't plan on having a horror movie August. It's just, yeah, it kind of worked out that way. But I wanted to touch on a couple of them because I thought they were interesting. I finally saw Clown in a Cornfield, which premiered on Shudder a week ago. And I'd actually read the book fairly recently, a few months back. And I really quite enjoyed the book. There's currently 3 of them, and I've read all 3 now, and I look forward to the 4th book that's apparently being written. I think there's more going on with them than you might expect from a title like Clown in a Cornfield. So how's the movie? The movie's a pretty decent adaptation of the book. I think they do a lot of things. I think they streamline some of the things they do to streamline the narrative are actually very smart. There's like basically there are kids having a party in a cornfield, and there's a clown in the cornfield who starts massacring the kids in the cornfield. That's the broadest high-level premise of the book, right? It turns out that at least one of the kids is in cahoots with the clown in the cornfield. That's not in the movie. That's fine. I don't mind that. That's a wrinkle, that's a complication that added something, I think, but wasn't entirely necessary and was one of the edges we could have sanded off to get a movie in a decent runtime. That's a change that I'm particularly that I'm happy with. However, the titular cornfield clown ends up killing over 24 kids in this cornfield, and that's not shown in the movie. Which, okay, that's fine. My problem is that a clown in the cornfield, in a cornfield rather, is kind of like the movie Speed, where the whole premise of the movie, there's a bomb on a bus, if it goes below 50 it explodes. That's the entire movie. There's an intro, then there's the bus thing, all 3 acts of the movie is the bus thing, and then there's an epilogue. When I first saw the trailer, I thought it's like, oh, that's probably just, a 15-20 minute action sequence in the middle of the movie somewhere. No, that's a whole movie. Similarly, Clown in a Cornfield, the Cornfield Massacre is like the entire second half of the book. Once the massacre starts, that's pretty much the entire book. That's not just one action sequence in the middle of a horror story, that's the story right there. In the movie, it's similar to that, but it also only focuses on our lead cast of 6 or so main characters. So all the rest of the kids in the cornfield basically hide in the barn, and then the clown goes and menaces our main cast. And the other kids who are hiding in the film are never mentioned again. It's like, are they okay? Because in the book, the clown lights the damn thing on fire, and they all have to, run out and start getting picked off. That's how the clown kills so many of them, right? But that doesn't happen in the movie, which we've only got so much time and, budget and all that jazz, but it's like, what happened with the rest of the kids? We just, the narrative, like, completely ignores them. It's not even, like, followed up on in the denouement or epilogue or anything. It's just like the movie completely forgets about it. Also, the movie does a thing where, in the book, for the most part, there's no... If you read everything I put on social media back when I was reading the book, I was like, our book, I'm 40 of the way percent of the way through, and no clowns have killed anybody. What the hell? That doesn't happen in the movie. They actually... The clown starts picking off some of our lead characters before they even get to the cornfield. And it feels like it's done that way specifically just to have more kills spread out evenly throughout the story. And I can kind of see why they do that, but I don't think it really fits the story. Like, there's a reason the clown does the Cornfield massacre, and this doesn't work as well. It doesn't not work, it just doesn't work as cleanly as it does in the book. Also, the motivation, the reasoning behind it falls apart in the movie compared to the book because of a change that they made. One of the points of the book that I really, really liked is the reason the clown is doing this is revealed in the book, and one of the points of the story is it's a really dumb plan, it's a stupid reason to do it, and the clown is definitely going to get caught, definitely not going to get away with this. And back on what I said with the plan is stupid, it's stupid because it will not achieve the clown's stated goal. Obviously, it's a really dumb thing, and that's literally the point. In the movie, however, the massacre is something of a tradition. It's something that happens every couple of decades and has since the turn of the century. Well, if that's the case, then that really defeats the whole idea of this is a stupid idea that's definitely not going to work. Well, clearly it does and has multiple times for nearly a century, so I don't agree with that addition. But the movie is fun, it's got some good kills in it, goes a little far with some of the humor for my taste, but for the most part, I did think a lot of the humor was very funny. I thought a lot of the performances were had some lovely nuance and were well done. So, and I'll happily follow our heroine Quinn into the next segment of her adventure if they make another movie. So, some things I like, some things I didn't, but interesting adaptation. I wonder how I'd feel about it if I had not read the book, right? I wonder if my estimation of the story would be a little bit higher if I had not read the book. Probably would, because having read the book, I'm like, it could have been better. Everything could always be better, but having read the book, I know exactly how it could have been better. Also, they killed the one black guy first. It's like, really, movie, really, really, movie, come on, really. Like, I mean, in the book, there's a prologue that shows not a murder but a death that fuels part of the story, and that death did happen and is mentioned. It's just not shown in any. They have a different prologue. It's a massacre that happened back in the 90s, which doesn't really doesn't work as well, I think, for the narrative. First guy to die in the movie is the one black guy in the movie. It's like, really? It's like, did no one on this film go, are you sure you don't want? I mean, even in, like, there are two of the dudes die before the cornfield. It's like, the order in which they died wasn't really that important. You could have, with the magic of editing, you could have just flipped them around, done a little ADR to cover it so you're not referring to the one other character. Oh, I haven't heard him since last night. Yeah, there's some of that in there, but it's like, really? Guys, come on. I wonder if it was like a knowing, tongue-in-cheek, trying to be funny and leaning into a bad trope, bad idea. But I mean, I don't know what's worse. Doing that on purpose is really bad, and not recognizing that you're doing that is also really bad. So, I also saw the new Final Destination. Final Destination Blood Money? Bloodlines. It's all right. I really liked the older you get, the more people you know who die. It's a fact of life. We all die, and the longer we're around, the more of the people we know, either personally or just through media or whatever, pass away. It's a sucky part of reality. I have seen several performers I've admired their last performance in a movie, and sometimes you hear a person passed away, like for instance, Sid Haig died several years ago, and I had heard that Three from Hell, the Firefly trilogy, the Rob Zombie's follow up to Devil's Rejects, that was his last movie. And I was like, oh, it's so sad he died. He was a great performer. I really enjoyed a lot of the stuff he was in. Uh, well, I mean, I didn't really care for House of Thousand Corpses, but I did enjoy Sid Haig. I've enjoyed him as an actor for a long time. So I remember watching Three from Hell, and his scene comes on, and at that point, I had seen the movie. He had passed away like 2 or 3 months before. He'd passed away after filming it, but before the film had come out. So I was watching this film, knowing that Sid Haig had passed away, and watching his final scene. It was a great performance. It was lovely to see him, but you could tell that this guy was on his last legs. He was literally at death's door. He was frail and weak and had lost so much weight since the last time I had seen it. Not in a healthy way. He looked skeletal and gaunt. And it's like, oh God, that I'm looking at a guy who's when he filmed this, he was going to drop dead in like 2 months. And he did. Of course, there's also kind of that morbid unease in the pit of my stomach when I'm watching very old films, films from like the 30s. And I'm watching this film and I'm enjoying it, and I can't help but think, wow, all of these people are dead. Yeah, it's a horrible thing to think, I suppose, but it's like, man, even that 7-year-old girl with the braids and the lollipop, she's been dead for years. Every single person in this movie is dead. All of them died. It's horrible. So, Final Destination, Battlefield Earth. No, it's not that. Bloodlines. Final Destination Bloodlines was Tony Todd's final movie. And I knew that going in. I knew that this was his final performance. And it's really a wonderful performance. It's so great to see him one last time. And he's got such a charisma, such screen presence, such gravitas, and it was a great small moment in the film. Particularly because he's talking about death, like that character always does. The character of someone Bloodworth, I think the character's name he's a mortician. He works in a morgue. And so the character's like, death is after us. What do we do? And he's like, nothing really. And in this movie, he reiterates to the characters who are on death's list, he's like, you're going to die. And so am I. And he has this beautiful little soliloquy about death is inevitable. So, enjoy every precious moment of life to the best of your ability. That's all we can do, is appreciate the limited time that we have. And it is limited, unfairly so a lot of the time, but nevertheless, it can be a gift. And if it is, we should make the most out of it. And then he exits stage left. And it's a beautiful scene. It's well performed, but it's also particularly sad because I know that he died shortly after filming that. And you could definitely tell looking at him because, like Sid Haig, he had lost so much weight. He was very, and again, not in a healthy way, very gaunt and skeletal. I mean, there was still a lot of life in him, but it was clear that he was, even if I didn't know that he had died, it was pretty clear that this guy was near the end. And apropos, he's talking in the movie about his end is coming. Everyone dies. You, the characters in the film, and me. And I was sitting there wondering, are they going to show this character get splattered by the embodiment of death? Are they actually going to do that? Is it going to be like a mid-credits scene that cuts to Bloodworth walking out of the morgue with his box of stuff and get crushed by a falling piano? Someone actually does get crushed by a falling piano in this movie. That's like, I'm not sure how I'd feel about that. But to the film's credit, listen to me when I say the sixth Final Destination movie handles this with an amazing amount of thought, consideration, and tact. Right? There is a motif used throughout the entire film of, as you might imagine from the subtitle, Bloodlines, family trees. They create a large family tree, of course with red lines, both to kind of do that whole murder board red string kind of thing, and also because, red blood. It started here with someone who escaped death, and then she had these 3 kids, and these 3 kids had these kids, and this, and so you have this humongous chart of all these people connected by the red lines, and death is, Tony Todd's character was one of the original people who escaped the original mass death thing, right? So death is cleaning everything up and is coming for him too, right? And one of the ways this is represented is not only with these inevitable red lines piercing through the family tree. It's just following this nicely, clearly demarcated path down through, literally through all of these people, all of these lives. One of the other motifs in the movie is a rolling penny. Just a simple thing, very little value, inexorably marching forward along this designated path, whether we like it or not. So we've got these dual motifs permeating throughout the entire film. We get to the credits, and it continues using that motif of this singular penny just rolling down this red line as it gets to all of the character cast names, like, Death's cleaning up all of these characters, and it finally gets to the end to where we have our in memoriam, our in loving memory of Tony Todd, and that's where it ends. And I was like, you know what? That's honestly really sweet and adult and mature and considered and, as I said, tactful of this 5th sequel in a splatter horror franchise. I was honestly really impressed. I was kind of wondering if they were going to do a mid-credits, he gets hit by a bus or a truck or something like that, or the ground opens up and swallows it, some weird thing that splatters him. But no, Death did go for and retrieve that character and the actor in real life. We don't need to see it. We know it happened. We'll just send him off with love, tact, and grace. And I was moved by that. So Terminator. What the fuck? Final Destination Bloodlines. Decent little splatter flick. It's It's got some fun new ideas. It's got some really nice set pieces. Um, the CGI takeover. It has too many CGI takeovers that look too CGI, but there is a bunch of practical effects work that looks really nice. So, and of course, it's got a lot of really obnoxious and unrealistic, but very imaginative um, death vignettes presented throughout the film. So overall, quite liked. Um, Chaos has never been a horror fan. Yeah, it's kind of a weird genre of film to really like, you know. And I'll be honest, being middle aged, um, I don't enjoy Final Destination as much as I did when I was, in my 20s. I guess it's the inevitability of, as you know, I will die someday. I've always known that, but I'm in my 40s. I'm a lot closer to whenever it happens, I'm a lot closer to it now than I wasn't when I was in my 20s, right? There's something that is not as easy, at least for me, to enjoy about a film where the entire point is the inevitability of death, where um, the antagonist is death itself. Um, Not just death itself, but the inescapable inevitability of death. That's just not as much as I enjoy and appreciate and get a kick out of so many aspects of the movie. That theme just isn't as fun anymore. Because when you in other horror movies like Jason Voorhees or something, it's a similar thing. The antagonist is splattering our characters, but when it's Jason Voorhees, there's things you can do. You could just not go to Camp Crystal Lake. You just not go there. That's one thing. You could also run away, and you've got a final girl or some final inlet or Tommy Jarvis. You've got a couple characters who survive these encounters. There's something most people won't survive, but it's overwhelming odds, but someone will get one over on the antagonist at some point. Someone will push back. Someone will win. It's not impossible. You can do it if you're smart enough, if you're willful enough, if you're lucky enough. You can do it. You can overcome this barrier. But in Final Destination, you can't. You're not going to win. You're going to die. Death is going to get you, and it's going to be mean and it's going to be messy, and there is nothing you can do about it. And that's not as fun. It's actually kind of depressing. It also, from a narrative standpoint, kind of eliminates any tension. It's like, oh, who's going to survive? No one. Oh, how are they going to get away? They're not. Even if they survive the movie, they're just gonna die by the in between the now and the next one, right? Everyone dies, all of them. You cannot escape. There's literally nothing you can do, and that's, man. As I get older, that just gets more and more depressing. Um, Still, some really imaginative and well staged set pieces, though. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. So you move to something like The Monkey, which is basically Final Destination, just with a physical avatar of death. I've not read the King short story, I don't think. If I'm remembering right, the King short story is part of a collection that I haven't read, so I'm pretty sure I've not read the original story. If I did, I was young and I don't even remember anymore. So I've no idea how well this worked in the book. In the movie, I don't even get the point of the monkey much. It seems a little bit in conflict with the theme of the movie, which is um, acknowledging and accepting your trauma, taking ownership, not dismissing or belittling or ignoring, but accepting and dealing with your trauma in a healthy way. Because if you don't, it's going to, or rather, it can bleed out and negatively affect other people. And that's literalized in the movie by a magic toy monkey that Final Destination style splatters people through like coincidental Rube Goldbergian processes, right? Um, I don't know what exactly the monkey actually adds though, because it's this weird thing where the monkey has a wind up in the back, and the how it works in the film is if you wind the monkey, someone dies. And that it's an interesting gimmick. You would want to keep the monkey, don't wind the monkey, no one dies, at least unnecessarily, everyone does die. And you don't want it to fall into the wrong hands because they might wind it and end up accidentally killing someone. Um, Maybe I'm thinking about it in the wrong way, but I don't know. I mean, I like the monkey's design. It's got a really cool design. It's nice and creepy. It's it's honestly nice to have a face, some type of physical embodiment, unlike the Final Destination movies where like the best they can do is kind of like a breeze. It's like, oh look, the leaves in the trees are waving. That death's there somewhere, right? This has an evil looking monkey. So that's kind of nice. I don't know exactly how the presence of the monkey actually bolsters what I read as the film's theme, but a lot of people get splattered in very entertaining ways, and the film is particularly silly and genuinely really funny. I did laugh out loud several times. I thought a lot of the jokes were really funny, and it also is using a lot more practical gore gags, which look a lot nicer. There's also one weird misdirect where this woman falls through a set of stairs and into a bunch of cardboard boxes being stored underneath the stairs, labeled bear traps. I'm like, oh shit! This woman just it just belly flopped into a box of bear traps. I mean, hopefully no one put armed bear traps in the box. I mean, they would be closed. You just fall on top of them. But the weird misdirect is apparently someone was storing fish hooks in the bear traps box. Because she like pulls her head down and is like, oh, I've got fish hooks in my face. Ah. And I'm wondering, was that supposed to be a misdirect, or did they just like change their mind on how that scene was going to go, and their footage just had the original bear trap boxes? Like the bear trap effect didn't work. And like, this isn't working, or why would anyone have loaded bear traps in their boxes? Well, I mean, we have some fishing rods on the wall. Let's cut to that to set that up, and then all the fishing tackle and stuff is in the box. And, okay, that works. And it does, but I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Anyway, the monkey I thought was entertaining too. It's got an evil toy monkey that makes people die in funny ways, and the joke, it doesn't take itself very seriously, and most of the humor actually worked for me. So let's see. Chaos says, I remember reading somewhere that for that scene the filmmaker said that Tony Todd's character is truly speaking to the audience in that scene. Yeah, I don't doubt it. It definitely, the way it's framed is Tony Todd is, as the character, is looking almost directly straight down the barrel of the camera during this monologue. I mean, he is talking to the characters who came to visit them, who are standing on the other side of the camera, but he's looking nearly straight down right into the camera lens. So Yes, that is definitely directed at the viewer. Um, Also, from what I've heard too, I did watch some behind the scenes stuff that was posted, and apparently a lot of that final monologue was written by Tony Todd himself. They do say I'm not sure if it was like improvised in the way that he just made it up as he went along, or if he's like, I'd like to say this and let's work on that. Usually when they say this actor improvised the scene, a lot of the times it's not they made it up while they were filming. It was like they had an idea and they ran it by the director and the other performers, and they're like, I'd like to do something like this. Okay, let's do it like this. It's usually not like a live performance ad lib. um Nevertheless, it was an affecting moment. I thought it was really sweet, and it actually worked very well in the context of the film too. So, and finally, sweet revenge. So, there is a short film on YouTube right now. Came out yesterday, day before, or something like that. Um, Called Sweet Revenge, which is a Friday the 13th short film. As far as I can tell, it's actually an official short film made in part by whoever actually owns the rights right now. My understanding is that they figured out the damn rights to this thing. Some entity has it and is making a prequel television series called Crystal Lake or Camp Crystal Lake or something, and are working on a feature film, and just made a short film in collaboration with a sponsor who sells hard cider, which sounds like they don't have that much money. So if you notice the character we're going camping, and it's like, oh, why is this box clinking? Oh, it's all my hard cider. And the other character has a beer, and if you look at the label, there's an apple on it. That's probably their brand of apple orchard cider, whatever the hell it's called. And the creepy old guy who owns the camp is like, would you like an apple? Fresh picked today. It's like, they wouldn't have had the money to make the short unless the apple orchard hard cider people put up their money. So you can have some product placement. It's fine. It's not as overbearing and obnoxious as I'm making it out to be. I feel it's as tastefully done and unobtrusive as it could possibly be. Now, I would like, Chaos says the true ad lib was usually like Robin Williams or Jim Carrey. Yeah. I've seen some behind the scenes for several of their films, and it's a good thing those guys are funny and truly talented comedians, because otherwise that shit would be really annoying. It's like, son of a bitch, Jim, would you please just read the goddamn line? We want to go home. I mean, you're being paid $16 million, but we're not. We would like to go home to our families and feed our fucking cat, But no, you just gotta dick around and show everyone how damn funny you are. I mean, I hope that's not how anyone felt about it, but you never know. So I'd like to talk a bit about Sweet Revenge, this Friday official-ish, or official, Friday the 13th short film that premiered on YouTube a couple days ago, and I am going to spoil it, so if you care, because I'll be upfront, there's more to this short than just Jason stabs a few people to death. I mean, you would expect, oh, it's a short Friday the 13th film. I imagine some young people who are conventionally attractive go to Camp Crystal Lake and get menaced and murdered by Jason Voorhees. Yes, I wouldn't consider that a spoiler either, but there is actually more on this sucker's mind than just that, so I would say that there are some things that are spoilery and worth discovering for yourself. So if you have any interest in a 13-minute Friday the 13th short film, then, go watch it and Allow me to ruin it later. So, Sweet Revenge. I have my critiques. Most of them are budget and time related. It's clear that this was done on a budget and not because they had to get money from a cider company to fund some of it. It's clear they didn't have the largest budget. It doesn't look like garbage or anything, but it's also clear that they didn't have the largest budget. It also suffers from the constraints of being a short film. Being a short film means it's short, so you don't have as much time to flesh out the narrative, the characters, the you know, the scenes, setting the scene, the location, just breathing. You don't have, you kind of have to, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, okay, we're out, right? Generally speaking, shorts are better at leaving you thinking, oh, hey, that was aesthetically cool. That was emotionally cool. The tangible details, the surface level shit really spoke to me. It was really cool. It had some interesting ideas to present, things to think about, right? Rarely does a short ever have the time to allow you to walk away from it going, wow, you know what? That was a satisfying, complete narrative with satisfying and complete character arcs. And it had a premise, and it had a point of view, and it had a conclusion with something to say. Usually in something that's only 10 to 15 minutes or shorter, you don't have the time for that. So I'm more forgiving of this short for having me walk away enjoying thinking about the ideas that it presented more than having a satisfying narrative. So, as you might expect, and as I pretty much already confirmed, yes, this short does feature a cast of conventionally attractive young actors who go to Camp Crystal Lake and get menaced and stabbed in the face by Jason Voorhees. That's the general setup and premise of what happens in our short story. However, there is more to it than that. This short film has a very interesting angle. I can't say that the execution is as satisfying than it could possibly be, even in its short runtime, but I really like the angle. And I'll tell you what it is. Imagine, if you will, that Eve, our final girl, our main protagonist, is affianced to one of the other friends who are going up to the cabin. And she was in a rivalry for her fiance's affections with her best friend, who's also going up to the cabin for parties, or it's never established exactly why they're going up there or together, but it's a short film and we don't have time for this shit. Where they're going, right? So, our lead character, her fiance, her best friend who competed for her fiance's affections, but she won, and the other guy who's there, right? These are our main characters. Our lead protagonist, Eve, maybe has a confidence problem or maybe has legitimate concerns because, as she mentions to her best friend, who she won the affections of the other guy because she's wearing the ring, she still doesn't understand why he picked her. And as we, so there seems to be some suspicion going on. He's acting a little weird. She's like, hey, I'm gonna go to the lake. And he's like, oh, come with me. Oh, I can't, I didn't bring a swimsuit to Camp Crystal Lake, which is a camp that has a lake. And she says, who said anything about swimsuits? Eyebrow wiggle, eyebrow wiggle. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he doesn't show up. So she goes on a boat ride, so she just takes out a canoe and canoes around herself, and she's looking at her phone, and, she's texting the dude, and it's like, hey, where are you at? And he doesn't show up. So she's got suspicions. And it's confirmed later in our short, not much later, because again, it's a short, that her fiance is playing tonsil hockey with her best friend. Canoodling. Snogging. Being a dirty, dirty little cheat. So, now what if I told you that the angle that's being presented here is our protagonist Eve is very angry at the betrayal of her fiance and her best friend. And she's going to fucking kill them. So we have a revenge, sweet revenge. We have a revenge story. She's going to get back at the sons of gunses who betrayed her trust. But there's a wrinkle in the shape of Jason Voorhees. Now that's a pretty interesting idea, if you ask me. No one did, but I like to imagine that they care what I think. So I imagine people thinking, hey, Andrew, what do you think would be a good idea? I'm like, you know what? I kind of like the angle of someone at Camp Crystal Lake pissed at her friends and trying to off them, but Jason Voorhees is in the way. She has to get to them before Jason does, and she has to survive Jason herself. What a neat idea, right? Can she take revenge on the people who betrayed her before Jason gets to them, or before he kills her? That's a really neat idea. It's nowhere near executed as well as you might be thinking. It's such a neat idea. It's like, oh man, that would be amazing. Yeah, it's not really what happens, but the idea is there, and it's so much fun to think about. But there's another element here that this this short has on its mind, and you might think, my God, it's going to do a Jason stabby story and have this interesting angle plus an entire new one. How could that possibly fit in one 13-minute episode? That's a great question. It can't, and it doesn't, not really well, but they're really interesting things to consider and think about. So the other element is, so for those of you who've never seen any of the Friday the 13th movies, do I recommend them? No. I mean, none of them are good movies, but I mean, if you like slasher movies, you should probably see a couple of them. Jason Voorhees was a young kid who went to a summer camp at Camp Crystal Lake back in like the late 50s, and he drowned. And he died. It was an accident, but it was an avoidable accident. The counselors weren't, the counselors who are kids themselves, college kids, they weren't really watching him. He was just that goofy Voorhees kid. He's kind of an obnoxious little shit. Screw that little kid. And then he fell in the water and drowned to death. He's dead. But he came back. And so now there's more to the story. I'm skipping over Pamela Voorhees. He came back for reasons. I guess the reasons being we wouldn't have a horror movie if he didn't. But yeah, this kid who drowned back in the 1950s, later he just came back and started killing people. He just do that. That's a thing that happened. And this movie this short film proposes, if that's something that can happen, surely it's something that could happen more than once, right? What if Jason Voorhees is not the only one who died and came back? Yeah. Halfway through, Jason Voorhees kills Eve, our protagonist, drowns her ass. She's rowing her little boat, and he just grabs her out of the boat, and she falls over backwards and crotch shots the camera. It's not the most flattering way to be yanked out of a boat, but you know, whatever. She's wearing shorts, it's okay. And then she just wakes up out of the water at least several hours later because it's night now. And at first you're thinking, wait a minute, how did it get to be, how long, what happened? It's pitch black now. It was broad daylight when she was yanked out of the boat. What the hell happened in this span of hours? Are we doing some weird, like, Norman Bates kind of thing where this is actually just Jason and he's for some reason having like a dissociative disorder where he's replacing his own personality with his victim, and this is actually going to be revealed to be Jason wandering around? Or did she die and just came back? Like, well, I mean, it happened with Jason. I guess it's just something that can happen every once in a while. And, yeah, so she dies and she just comes back. And what's interesting is, yeah, she looks pretty dead. She's very pale. She's very waterlogged. She doesn't speak anymore, like Jason Voorhees, although she does vocalize. You know, she comes out of the water gasping for air. And as she wanders around the camp for various reasons I'll get into and completely spoil here in a second, she does gasp in terror and panics and pants and screams in pain when she gets injured. But she never actually speaks. And as the short rolls on, she gets quieter and quieter. Very Jason-like, even. So the other concept that this short has, yes, we're moving on to a third one. How do we manage jamming an entire Friday the 13th movie into a 13-minute short? Well, its solution here is we take our protagonist, our audience insert, or rather our audience point of view character, off the board. We do our setup, and then we essentially Leon Kennedy in Resident Evil 4 her ass. You know, she fights the big lake monster, and then she passes out and then wakes up that evening. It was so kind of the same thing. So we're taking her off. We start the movie. We take her off the board. She's unconscious, or in this case, dead. And she comes back in the middle of the night right into the climax of the movie. So the Jason movie has already happened. She missed it. So she wanders her ass out of the lake and does the final girl thing where she stumbles across all the bodies of the people that Jason has slaughtered throughout of the movie and has arranged in little artistic tableaus, you know, like he's wont to do. Must be very bored. He's like, you know, I stabbed this person. Maybe if I, you know, there's a clothesline over here. What if I bisected this person and hung up their lower half on the clothesline like a pair of pants? Yes. This speaks to me. I imagine that's what Voorhees is thinking. So we start our movie and then we don't have time because we're doing a short. She just stumbles into the climax of the movie, which I think is a really ingenious way to structure a short. So she stumbles across a bunch of characters that we're briefly introduced to in the first half, and they're all splattered, and there's some really lovely practical makeup effects and some nice gore, especially for very low budget. Looks great. She gets back to the cabin that her and her three friends are staring at. Her fiance and her best friend are making out on the couch, and she's staring through the window. And this doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, if he's going to cheat on her, why did he bring her up to the camp? Is the other guy just cool with this? Where did they think she was? I mean, we did miss the movie. Maybe they just saw her boat floating out in the Camp Crystal Lake and couldn't find her and like, well, she died. Let's make out. It doesn't really make a ton of sense, but whatever. So she's standing outside and she sees her friends making out, and she's wet and she's scared. She doesn't know what's happened to her. She realized she was being yanked off a boat, and then she woke up in the middle of the lake in the middle of the night, swam to shore, found a bunch of dead people, and then now she's seeing her the betrayal of her fiance and her best friend. And now Jason Voorhees is standing behind her, grabs her by the throat, and lifts her up, and then kind of cocks his head like Michael Myers does that confused dog look, and then chucks her ass through the window. And the couple scatters and like, oh gosh, are you all right? And oh, no, no. And the boyfriend is like, I'm gonna go for help. But Jason kicks in the front door, holding a outboard boat motor, which was set up earlier, and digs into this guy's face with the edge of the boat motor, which is another wonderful gooey effect. And the other guy is like, screw this, I'm out of here, and runs for the door. So Jason turns the motor over, crushes what remains of the guy's head, which is also just lovely. Great visual, great sound effect. Yanks it's not plastic, it's full metal, the spinny bit, the spinny bit at the end of the boat motor that makes the boat go burr. Yanks it off and chucks it like a fucking shuriken at this guy, and it bends halfway into his back and he falls over dead, I guess. And then he looks at Eve and her best friend, who are cowering on the floor, and the best friend is like, fuck this, and throws Eve to the ground, gets up and bolts for the kitchen. Propeller, thank you, Chaos. Voorhees stalks after her, but Eve grabs him by the leg, to stop him. And you might be thinking, is she trying to stop him? Is she trying to save her friend from harm? Or is she trying to stop Voorhees from killing her because she wants to do it? But Voorhees kicks her away. She has a machete. She picked it up at the scene of a different murder. So, just so you know that. He picks up her machete. He kicks her away, stomps on her shoulder to hold her in place, grabs the machete, and then pins her to the ground by plunging it straight through her upper abdomen. And she screams bloody murder. Still doesn't actually speak anything, but she does still vocalize. So she's pinned to the floor through that's a kill shot. So if there was any indication that you were like, is she dead? Yes, she dead. So he goes after the other remaining friend and throws her around the kitchen, slams her on top of the tabletop, holding her by the throat, and then grabs an apple corer, and starts pressing it into her face. Meanwhile, which seems like a really inefficient way to hurt, but it's like Voorhees is sitting there going, I'm feeling them artistic juices bubbling up within me again. I kind of wonder what this would do. I don't think this is going to work, but be patient. Let me try something. So he's pressing this damn apple corer into the one that cores the apple and splits it, open like a flower, that one. Pressing it into her face. Meanwhile, Eve is on the floor, screaming and pulling this damn thing out of her. And she finally gets it out of her, stands up, and runs Jason through the back with it. Just completely impales it from the back end. And she gives Voorhees a look. Gives him, like, a side eye. Like she's just annoyed at him. Just like, she's like, dude. And then the friend rolls off the counter and bolts out the front door, and she snaps her head to her, grabs a knife out of the butcher block, and then stalks after her. And so the girl, not Eve, but the friend who betrayed her, runs out to the car, gets in the car, but oh no, I don't have the keys. How am I going to go? Is it under the thingy? No. Oh, what am I going to do? And she looks up, and suddenly there, we see her we have the point of view camera moving towards the car, and we hear the which vocally I think is a little heavy, a little bit overdone, but whatever. Sonically, I mean, it's just too loud and emphatic for my taste, but whatever. But it's Eve standing there, and she slams her hand against the window, and in her hand are the car keys. And the friend is like, "Oh shit, Eve, you're alive. Okay, get in, let's get out of here." And so she walks around to the other side and just holds up the keys to her. She grabs the keys and there's Jason Voorhees standing all menacingly with the machete, which somehow he managed to reach around and just kind of pull that sucker out of his back. That must have been, well, I guess he could have just pushed it from one side, but anyway. So they start the car, which actually starts, which is great. That rarely happens in a horror movie. And they start driving away, and Eve isn't talking anymore, and she's not vocalizing anymore. She's just kind of staring out the front window. If you're watching, she still has the knife in her lap, and her friend starts talking, and she says, "Oh yeah, you saved me. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Eve." And Eve looks at her, grabs the knife, and just slams it into the front of her face and out the back of the headrest, and the car careens off the road and into a tree. And the door opens up, and Eve just hops out with the knife and just stands around looking, not sure what happened to her, what she is, what she's doing. And there's Voorhees on the other side of the road looking at her, also not seeming entirely sure what to make of this, and they just kind of look at each other, adjusting their grips on their respective weapons. Voorhees starts walking towards her, menacing like, and she just looks at him and just kind of cracks the slightest bit of a sardonic grin, and then steps quickly out of frame. Not entirely clear if she's advancing on him or walking away or what, and that's where the short ends. I liked it more because of all of the interesting ideas that it presents. The idea of, if it could happen to Jason, it could happen to someone else too. What would that be like? Would they team up? Would they fight? Would they get in each other's way? Would they antagonize each other? Would they avoid each other? Who the hell knows? There's a lot of interesting things you could do here. What would you do? Another interesting thing was the whole idea of someone trying to kill their best friends who betrayed them before Jason Voorhees gets to them or kills them too. That's a really interesting idea. I like the, I like the idea that we just stumbled into the very end of a horror movie, right? I think that's a very cool structural way to present a short. I don't think narratively the short works terribly well. I hit a little bit on why are these two cheaters going with the person they're cheating on to the same cabin and cheating on them that doesn't make much sense. I think the whole bit where she's suspicious or losing trust, or I think more of that could have been shown prior to Jason grabbing her and dragging her into the deep. There's a little bit early on where there's kind of a flashback that's doing its best to set up who she is as a character, because there's this flashback to another conversation that they had at some point. Might even be a flash forward to a conversation they have at Crystal Lake that we don't actually. If I had to guess, I would say it was originally a conversation that happens at Crystal Lake when they get there, but it didn't actually fit, so they used it as a pseudo flashback, but it's kind of a flash forward that explains a little bit of a backstory. It's like, because she asked her friends, "I still don't understand why he chose me over you," and she's like, "Oh, but you're a force of nature." And that's a really deliberate and interesting phrasing that I would have really liked to. I mean, we see a bit of that after when she's dead, at the very last few minutes of the short. But I'd really like the film to have been able to take the time to show what she meant by this character as a force of nature. I think this narrative would have been more effective, as most narratives would, with a bit more time to establish itself. So, no, I don't think it really works as a narrative. I have some I have some problems with it, but I really like the ideas and the angles that it presents and plays with. They're really fascinating and fun to think about the possibilities. And I admire the fact that it's trying something unique, and not just, put pretty people in a cabin and stab them. Whatever, that's enough. That's all we need to do. Fans will love that, and yeah, they would. But they're also adding wrinkles to the world of Voorhees, the lore, the mythology, whatever, without stomping on anything that came before. Like, they're not changing who or what Jason is. They're following logical paths. You know, this is a thing that happened to this one kid this one time. I guess it could... Who's to say it couldn't happen again? Jason isn't that special. You know, it doesn't contradict anything. There's nothing that says this could only ever happen in this one specific circumstance, this one specific person, because he's the special chosen one. No. Although if you read the reviews, a lot of people really did not like this. Granted, most of the problems seem to be very surface level aesthetic bullshit. Like, oh, the gore was lame. There wasn't enough kills. It's like, you know, half the kills were like off screen. It's like, I mean, yeah, but I think the narrative supported that, and also it's a short, so like literally like 9 people die in this short. Maybe more. It depends on if you count Eve or not. And you see some really gnarly, gory deaths. I think there's a nice variety. That some are on screen, some are off screen, some are quick, some are slow, some are simple, some are elaborate. And some other people, Jason's not big enough. I'm like, he's a head taller than everyone else in here. I think what they mean is he's not big and thick like Kane Hodder or Ken Kirzinger were. But I mean, that's not always how Voorhees has been in some of the movies. He's just a dude. Well, who's the guy who played him in 2009? What's that guy's name? Is it Kevin Myers or something like that? He's a tall guy, but he's also a thinner guy. Not like reedy thin, but not big, really wide, thick dude like Kane Hodder. This guy's a 6'4", 6'5". I mean, he's not huge, but like super broad. But he's a big guy. Everyone looks up at him, saying, "Oh, the mask is stupid." I'm like, it's a hockey mask. I don't know. Jason's redesign is terrible. It's like it's a dude wearing pants and dirty pants and a shirt, wearing a hockey mask and holding a machete. That's not a violation of the Voorhees look. What are you talking about? Now, if he was wearing board shorts and flip-flops or Crocs or something like that, yeah, that might stand out as like, I don't agree with that as a redesign. You know? I don't begrudge anyone for whom the story the short doesn't work. That's fine. As I said, I don't think it works as a narrative. I have my critiques too, but I'm bummed out that so many of the reviews I've seen, with the exception of reviews from actual like film peoples, Roger Ebert, The Wrap, actual film review publications seem to be pretty, think, hey, this is pretty neat. I like a lot what they're doing. The real fan films, they were all guys so far as this, the one guy who just makes his own website and talks about movies he likes, they're all like, oh, it's stupid and it's lame, and oh, they're making Jason a girl now. And it's like, no. Eve is a completely different character. You did notice that Jason was there, right? Jason's not big enough. It's like he's a head taller than everyone else. What do you want? Not enough people died. It's like it's a short. More people died in the movies. Yeah, they're longer. Although the body count in this at like somewhere around 9 that's pretty fairly parsimonious with the body count in most of the films. Just the problem I have is not that so many people express dislike for the short. That's fine. It's subjective. We all have our own opinions and our reasons for feeling that way. I just am bummed out by the lack of ability or even interest to try and articulate the reasons for one's dislike, because almost all of the I don't like it becauses, if they bothered to present it because, were unimportant surface level bullshit that a lot of times wasn't even reflective of what is in the short. You know, a lot of it genuinely seemed to boil down to some version of this is not exactly like the movies that I loved growing up. And I'm talking about not all of the Friday 13th movies. I mean my favorite Friday the 13th movies. If this short isn't exactly the same thing as the first movie, the second movie, the fourth movie, and the sixth movie, then I say arbitrarily, I'm just picking them, then it's a failure and I hate it. I want it to be exactly the same as the thing I already like, is the tone I was getting from a lot of these, and that's just kind of sad, man. I mean, I like things too, but I mean, and you know, there's a fun little dopamine hit when you get more of the same thing you already like, but are those movies still exist? Paramount keeps putting them out on DVDs and such. You can still watch them. They're not going anywhere. Do new entries have to follow the exact same format, be exactly the same thing for you to be happy? I mean, I guess okay if it is, but that's pretty sad, man. I mean, if it was just more of the same of a thing I already loved, I'd probably still like it. But maybe it's just a consequence of being a middle-aged dude now, is while I can appreciate things that are just the same thing I loved when I was young, I also enjoy new spins on the things I loved when I was young. You know, things that I can, you know, put on the shelf next to the things I loved, rather than, I guess, on top of, because it's the same thing. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think what I'm getting at is we should teach media literacy in schools. I think that's the point of this. Oh, Jesus Christ! It's 9 o'clock. No wonder I'm so hungry. I've been yapping about this shit for 2 hours. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's like Metallica fans that keep wanting them to keep making Master of Puppets over and over again. Yeah, you know what? You know, I was gonna say I like the Beatles. I admire the Beatles. Oh shit, no, I was thinking of the Beach Boys, not Beatles, Beach Boys. I like the Beach Boys. I like a lot of their music. Um, I'm not like a humongous Beach Boys fan, but they've certainly made their mark in musical history. I know and enjoy a fair number of their work. I think they're pretty spiffy. And but if we whatever you think about it, I think it's great that we got pet sounds. And you may not like pet sounds. That may drive you up the goddamn wall. But I I think the world is a much more interesting place when a group like the Beach Boys, who was very popular at the time prior to that, unless I'm getting my timeline completely wrong, feel free to fact check me. But I like living in a world where a band can do really interesting experimental stuff, even if it doesn't work. It's like, hey, you tried something and it sucked. But that's okay because the stuff that you did that I love is still there for me to experience and enjoy. You know, I I don't it doesn't ruin the things that I like if you try new things even if they don't work. I It's kind of like what I was talking about before I started the podcast. YouTube has this AI generated inspirations or ideas for what kind of videos you should make, and they are all just make more of the most popular things that you've done. You know, sort your videos by number of views, figure out which video has the most views, and then do that. Exactly that. That same thing over and over until you've milked every drop of goodwill out of your audience, I guess. Um, and maybe that's the more profitable approach. But it's certainly not the most fulfilling, at least not for me. As a person who makes dumb shit on YouTube, I much rather just make the stuff that I'm inclined to make, whether it's now I would love it if more people enjoyed my stuff, but you know, it would drive me nuts if I did nothing but Eurovision reaction videos. And I like making, music reaction videos, but I'm not going to do one like every week. I'd I'd run out of things to say. Oh, as I actually recorded a reaction video to this year's Eurovision winner a couple weeks ago. You might be thinking, where the hell is it? Well, I'm not going to release it because it sucks. I didn't have much to say about it. I didn't think it was bad or anything. I just didn't really have anything interesting to say. And that's something that would happen pretty quickly if I tried to make a Andrew reacts to different music as a very frequent series. I'd just be repeating the same shit over and over. And maybe some people would be into that, but that would just bore the hell out of me. I like this video I'm describing. I've recorded several videos, reaction videos and otherwise, that I just never released because I didn't think they were very good or very interesting. I didn't have anything new or anything that I felt was new or interesting to say. I mean, I certainly reacted, as much as I react anyway. But yeah, I didn't think it was I didn't think it was a very good video, so I just spiked it. So that happens sometimes. I'll make another reaction video at some point, and I'm sure I'll film something and I'll say, this I have something to talk about, things that I'm excited to discuss or to share. And when that happens, I'll render the video and post it to YouTube. So anyway, it's late. I've been blabbering a long time about this shit, so I'm gonna eat dinner because I'm starving to death. So anyway, that's it for me. I hope you all enjoyed my insanely verbose rambling. And if you like, join me tomorrow for some more Trails of Cold Steel. We're heading to Nord. I think we're already in Nord, and we're gonna try to recruit Mint and probably do other things. I think there's one of the big monsters. We should be able to get into the ancient quarry. Someone's camping over there. I forget who it is. We didn't see them the last time we were in Nord, but I think we know who it is now. And is it the other lacrosse player? I'm trying to remember. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out tomorrow. So, Trails from the Crypt. Trails from the Crypt. Trails from the Crypt. John Katzer's Crypt Keeper voice. I can't do an impression of, but amazing vocal performance. I love that. Anyway, Trails of Cold Steel 2. Trails of Cold Steel 2. More streamy goodness tomorrow. Yeah, that's it for me. Have a healthy dinner to justify a delicious dessert and brush your teeth, get a good night's sleep, and see you tomorrow for the Sunday stream. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.